Here we have our factory radio. This is a 1981 280ZX, and I'm going to show you that the radio part works. And as you would expect when you engage the tape player, the radio cuts off and we try to play the cassette. Good. Now, what's in the cassette player right now is a cassette where I've removed the reels. So it's just something to make the player think that there's a cassette playing. But obviously there's no audio. I'm luckily in a situation right now where my cassette player is actually going in one direction and not flipping back and forth. So we're going to do a little experiment to actually cut in an auxiliary audio through that cassette player input and not using like a cassette player adapter. This is really more of a intellectual experimental exercise just to see what we're able to do and still maintain kind of a factory look even when we're playing an auxiliary device. So these are the parts that we're going to try using to turn the cassette player into an auxiliary input. Here's an example of a cassette deck. This is not the one in the car. You actually don't need to remove it from the car in order to do this, but I just wanted to show you that this is what the 5-pin DIN connector looks like that plugs into the radio part of the head unit. And here we have a Y connector that has one male to two female, and we're going to end up plugging the cassette player into one of those female Y connectors, and then I have a separate cable here which is also a 5-pin DIN which will plug into the other female part of the Y connector, and it turns into a regular 3.5mm auxiliary input. So this solution, although I'm sure it can be done more cheaply, doesn't require any type of soldering or wire cutting, removal of any units or anything like that. It's hopefully just going to be all plug and go. I've taken the Y connectors of the 5-pin round DIN connector, which is on one end connected to still the stereo and the tape, the factory cassette player, and then the other end is connected to that auxiliary 3.5mm adapter, and I've fed that from the back of the radio without having to remove the cassette player from the head unit, mind you. I just have to pull the whole head unit out and insert the Y connection. That 3.5mm jack is now coming out, and I have it available right here in my ashtray, so I can kind of pull it out and put it away when I need to. And just for the sheer irony of the situation, I'm going to plug it into this old Sony Walkman that I still have, and we're going to play a cassette coming out of this portable device right here. And the audio is going to go through the Y connector in the back of the head unit, back in through and merge in with the connection that this cassette player is actually engaging. And because the cassette in there has no tape in it, there's no audio being overlaid on this side. So we can just kind of have like even if my cassette player worked totally, which it does sometimes, I could now have an auxiliary input and my cassette input, and both of them can function. I don't have to disconnect my cassette player to hook up an auxiliary. So let's go ahead and just hit play on this to kind of say, okay, we're going into auxiliary mode, and then I can hit play on the Walkman, and then we start to go. My tape quality itself is not the best, but that's how it works. So I'm not sure if this is entirely useful or something you want to do all the time, but certainly it's an interesting exercise, and I just wanted to know how everything worked and see if I could do it, and I did. So good luck to you.